You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and today we're going to do a deep dive into, I guess, it's kind of hard to put into words exactly how we look at this, whether it's a return problem, whether it's an over ordering, whether it's a conversion rate, whether it's a profitability issue, and this is all around a try now, pay later type solution. And so Ben is here from TryNow. And just a really cool solution. We got connected through some other digital experts in the network. And I said, hey, you guys have to chat. And as soon as I had a conversation with him, I just thought this is kind of an episode for the podcast. As always, we're trying to tackle something that a lot of e-commerce brands are trying to handle. And specifically right now, a lot around profitability and conversion. So anyways, I'll kick it over to you, Ben. We'd love to hear your background, leading up to, TryNow as a whole. What is TryNow? And then we'll kind of jump into this overall issue that we need to talk about.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Aaron. Appreciate you having me on. My background, I was running a brand before starting TryNow. And before that, I was in finance, private equity. So all focused around profitable growth. EBITDA is the metric that we always talked about EBITDA. We don't care about revenue. At TryNow internally, we always say, well, you can't take gross sales to the bank. Everything is net. And so when I went to go run a brand, we were running some paid ads, and CACs were high, and everyone can relate to that. And so as we're focused on driving profitable growth for that brand, figure, well, we need to find ways to really reduce CAC, not just by 10%, 15%, but we needed to materially reduce CAC, improve ROAS, and make our spend more efficient. And try before you buy was the way that we could do that. Figure, well, we've got this great product. We believe in our product. Let's just make it as easy as possible to get that product into more homes. And what is like taking a first principle approach to it? Like what is hindering shoppers from trying that product? Well, it's the ability to try it. If we just get it in their homes, if we do a pop-up shop, like the product sold really well, but online with a newer brand, it was tough. And so that was the genesis for try before you buy. Simple idea, very complex to execute well. And so built TryNow to automate that for any other brand. Business raised about $24 million of funding. We're a very capital efficient business, and we strive to be the most customer centric partner that both our merchants and our shoppers ever work with. And so been an exciting year. We brought in a couple hundred brands, and we can kind of talk about a lot of kind of non-consensus ideas, which is, I think, like in many ways, TryNow is very sensible approach to growing a business, and in many ways, it's very non-consensus as well, particularly as we think about returns and things like that.
Yeah, I think about it from the standpoint of, especially, there's a lot of apprehension around the space because essentially they're not paying yet, and the fact that you're going to let inventory go without the cash being exchanged has a lot of people really nervous. And there's tons of fraud out there and everything else. We've done tons of dinners on that actually this year. So, but what is that, how do you solve for that piece as a whole?
Yeah.
And then I'd love to talk about, it seems like this would be great on huge adoption on the fashion side, but are you starting to see that bleed over into other markets as well?
Yeah.
So tons of stuff I don't know, where do you want to start? Like, where do you normally start?
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so let's talk about just the actual shopper experience from a shopper's perspective. And let's start with it, not online. Let's actually start with it in a store. So, I'm walking into a store. I actually was just literally 30 minutes ago, I just popped into ASRV because I was emailing with a buddy, Ethan, over at ASRV. And I said, I've never tried their products. I've always been on their site, love their imagery, but I've never actually tried their products. So I walked into that store. And I was in between a small and a medium and a pair of joggers. Super, super premium, really high quality products, $150 for joggers. Definitely something I want to try before trying, six on and putting on my credit card. So I walk into that store. I said, one of the sales associates, I tried on tried on 4 different items, 2 sizes, 2 styles. And if that sales associate said, "Hey, Ben, before you go into the fitting room, just give me your credit card. I'll charge it for, $627.33. But if it doesn't fit, just go to the front. We'll give you a refund. It'll hit your credit card statement in 7 to 10 business days." I tell him he's crazy. There's no way I'm going to pay to try that on. And that is how online operates. And that's backwards. And so that's really like what we fix. It's a fundamental problem that we solve, which is paying in the face of doubt, in the face of uncertainty. And so from a shopper experience online, the shopper just fills their cart with items to try. That cart value, everything goes natively through Shopify checkout. And that cart value says due today, $0. The amount if kept, which would be the price of the items in that order. Now that's where TryNow comes in. We ensure that we're able to capture for those funds the shopper for whatever the shopper keeps. So the shopper can keep 2, return 2, and we only charge the shopper for the 2 that they keep. The trial starts upon delivery. Merchants can adjust trial length, and they can also cap the number of items that a shopper can try. So it could be a 6-item cap, an 8-item cap, and then we're integrated with the returns flow to know what the shopper keeps and what the shopper returns, whether that's loop returns, happy, you name it. We're integrated to know the right amount to charge for at the right time, and then ensure against fraud so that merchants are able to capture for the funds in the event a shopper tries to cancel their card, run away with the goods, or anything like that. So for a brand, it's very simple to offer, just the same way as selling on a buy now basis. They just pick and pack an order, fulfill it, just like any other order, no change to their operations. And so that's like the shopper experience. Now, like for apparel, yeah. Any thoughts on that?
No, I just have a question. So is there just a hold on the credit card there? Like, what does that look like? And it just seems like almost like a subscription box type thing, right? Only that's going out automatically and you ship back what you don't and they charge you for whatever you kept. Same type of principle, I only say that because people would do subscriptions all day long just like that. But sometimes there's a hesitancy to doing it this way when it's almost exactly the same thing. The difference is they're literally picking out the items. It's not just a random subscription box of, you had somebody on the back end or AI figure out what you think might be the best. You might even have a higher hit rate in my mind because they're picking out their exact items. I'd love some details if that's exactly how it works or.
Exactly. Yeah. We work with the payment, the payment networks and card brands, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and the underlying issuing banks to manage around fraud. So we ensure that there's valid funds on the card at the time that the order is placed. So similar to a hotel or a ride share where you have an off on your card, but not a charge. That's how we validated it initially. And we kind of restore the balance of trust in e-commerce. It's like back in 2000, when e-commerce started, basically what we said is, hey, Aaron, I don't trust you. So give me your money. I'll give you my goods. And if you don't like the goods, no worries, send it back. But again, I don't trust you. So let me inspect the goods, make sure you didn't spill red wine all over it, and I'll give you your money back. And that whole process is, 30 to 60 days where the shopper is out their hard-earned money. And I think with e-commerce, we're just sort of taking that for granted. We just gotten accustomed to that. But when you flip the model, the shopper experience is dramatically better. And we see that in all of our shopper feedback. Can't believe this idea didn't exist until now, or I haven't seen other brands doing this. It's this is game changing. It's just like the in-store experience. And so that's this kind of very, very obvious idea, just hiding right in front of our noses the whole time. And it makes a big difference for brands. Now, it scares a lot of brands too. So the brands that we tend to work with they're early adopters. I mean, our motto is try new things for a reason. I don't know if this podcast is going to have video, but here's our sign that says try new things right behind us. It's just kind of core to who we are as people and as a team. But it's also core to who our early adopters are in terms of the merchants that we work with. Tend to be very data driven, very focused on profitable growth, and very focused on bottom line, not top line. Despite I think some of the stigma that try before you buy has for some brands that are a bit more concerned about it.
Yeah, so a few things I'd love to dive into. One, what happens to the market basket? How big does it get? My guess is it gets bigger. that brings up a second question: impact on returns. Right, one of the biggest issues that brands are trying to solve for right now, right, is, I mean, it's a pain, right, to take stuff back in. And then that leads into the next one, which is like, what is this outside of fashion? How are you seeing this being adopted across the board? Because I can think of, 5 other verticals that might want to have it. So maybe we tackle those in order.
Yeah. So let's talk about maybe the unit economics and kind of the basket, as you started with. Let's take Billy Reid as an example. Do you know Billy Reid, Aaron?
No, I don't.
They're great menswear brand. You should give them a try, Aaron. You can try them before you buy.
Right now, actually, I'll bring them on right now.
Why wouldn't you fill your cart? Fill your cart with 6 items. I recommend the moleskin jean, the Bond Peacoat, very nice. They've got some very nice suede jackets, pricey, but they're very nice. And we've been working with them for a little while, and I think it's a good case study because the private equity firm, they're owned by a private equity firm, very focused on the company's bottom line and EBITDA. And so there was hesitation around TryNow because they're focused on not increasing return rates, trying to reduce return rates. But what they realize is that they're really more focused on improving order economics. It's not so much that the return rate needs to be lower, it's that the profit per order needs to be higher. You're always trying to drive more profit per order. Yeah. And I think like historically, we always think about return rates, or like if you want to improve profit per order, you have to reduce the amount of money you're giving back to the shopper in the form of a refund. That is only true in a world where gross AOV doesn't increase. Historically, gross AOV is a very hard thing to really influence. Discounts help influence it by incentivizing shoppers to fill their cart with more items. Upsells in the cart can influence it, but those upsells typically have a 10% impact, which is great. But oftentimes it's not a 50, 60, 70% increase. So for Billy Reid, they have they've got almost a 100% increase in their AOV. So shoppers fill their cart with many more items to try. And the reason why is that cart value is $0. So by keeping that cart value fixed at 0, while shoppers continue to fill their cart, as opposed to being a $800 cart, which gives the shopper hesitation, which results in a abandoned checkout and a depressed cart size. Instead, they fill their cart, much larger carts, which increases the chance that a shopper finds something or multiple things to love, and also drives them to come back more frequently. So here's some data. For Billy Reid, their 6-month net LTV, this is net revenue per customer, is $452.20. For TryNow, their net revenue per customer is $811.84. So that's an extra $359.64. Now, they do have extra return costs. And so that's like the non-consensus idea behind it. The extra return costs are about $20.35. So they're paying basically an extra $20 to generate an extra $360, which obviously, you'd pay $20 to get $360 every time. But that is why the model works so well for them. For a brand that is just focused on reducing return rates,
So the flip side is people stop adding more stuff to the cart because, like you were saying at the beginning, I don't want $1,000 out there where I'm laying out cash, waiting for it to come, and then having to fill everything out, and then going back, and then maybe I'm waiting to get my refund back and my credit card statement. So naturally, I'm going to have a shorter list of items in the basket, in the cart for checkout.
Yeah.
Which means I have a lower chance of actually converting and keeping what I got because I can't try on everything I wanted to try on.
Yeah, exactly. Because
and there's a return coming. Everybody knows there's a return coming no matter what. There's a return coming. So is it worth putting extra? Yeah, like in this case, an extra 400.
Why not throw another couple things in there?
It's brilliant.
It's kind of like, we think like in the old way, where it's just the buy now model. a return at the end of a transaction is a bummer. It's like, damn, I didn't find something I loved. Well, in a TryNow model, it's just the natural and expected end of a transaction. You just keep what you love, you send the rest back, and there are costs associated with a brand. And so, what's key is that a brand is driving more profit to pay for those extra return costs. And we do have controls around that. So we've got like a feature called a buy zero restocking fee, which is only assessed if a shopper keeps nothing. But if a shopper keeps something, so orders 4, keeps 2, returns 2, returns are free. That just ensures like incentives are aligned. And so a brand can say, hey, Aaron, try a bunch of stuff on, convert your living room into fitting room. If you keep something, returns are free. If you keep nothing, like, hey, hope you can understand, we got to cover our fees. And completely understood by shoppers. And it also provides, a nice control for brands, and obviously a feature that CFOs love. But the reality is most brands don't use it because the unit economics on their own are just so strong that they don't, they don't need to. But a good thing to have kind of as insurance or back pocket.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And then, you talked about the return piece. That's huge. I mean, people are, they're trying to solve for it. They're trying to reduce it. They're putting, there's all kinds of new tech out there that helps you, select it better ahead of time. You almost go hand in hand with that, right? From the standpoint of if you can get highly focused where instead of 3 different sizes, they're getting 1 or 2 and they're hitting most of the time. I'm pumped because direct to consumer has gotten very competitive, a huge focus on profitability. Have a lot of brands looking to, do we, they're having that conversation. Do we even keep the website or not? And it's new tech and it's new tools like this that enable brands to perform at, rates that when it was a lot easier, 2 or 3 years ago.
And I think that like when brands are concerned around return rates, I think it's important to just sharpen our pencils a little bit on like what specifically about return rates we're concerned about, because most in most instances, a return for a brand is like a buy zero, a shopper keeps nothing. So that's largely because the units per transaction is, 1.2 to 1.6 on average, which is just like, forget about the data. Like if a shopper tries like on average a little over 1 unit, and it's a new customer, it's a pretty low likelihood that they find something that they absolutely love versus if they tried 3 or 4, to your point earlier in the conversation. And so what we focus on is less so return rates, more so buy zero rates. And so we decouple buy zeros from partial returns. So partial returns where a shopper keeps some, returns some. Those tend to be your most profitable customers. But for a buy zero, they tend to be your most unprofitable customers. And so everything we're focused on is reducing buy zeros and increasing partial keeps. And what's kind of non-consensus is we have a brand called Hampton. And Hampton is a premium women's apparel company. They've got 106% increase in their net LTV. And their return rate is one of the highest in our portfolio. And what tends to happen is that the higher the gross AOV is for TryNow, the higher the return rate will be, but the higher your net revenue per customer, because you have more chances for a shopper to find more items to love and to keep. And so we actually tend to want to increase that return rate for brands to increase the per order profit. And, it's like some brands look at me like we have 3 eyes, it's like crazy. Why would we be trying to increase return rates to drive more profit? But, when you dive into the data, you see that it's pretty true. Now, like, that's not to say that the return rate problem is not a problem. It's a huge problem. And I just think we need to rethink that problem and solve that problem because, I'm curious, Aaron, do you hear brands in your kind of network talking about return rate task force?
No, I haven't. I believe it.
Yeah.
The people I'm talking to, they're just trying to solve for returns. And so I believe that thing is popping up. There's companies like a Returnalize that we know pretty well that are doing some cool stuff.
That's great.
Trying to, there's, I'm looking at my, I got connected to like a Bold Metrics the other day, in what they're trying to do. Like a next gen True Fit.
Yeah.
They're looking at all these different ways to minimize returns, which is great. But are you paying a lot of money? Are you solving for something that might not need to be solved for quite as much? If you're doing something like this, give them the opportunity to get more without hitting their credit card, and then have them send it back. And so what? They send twice as much back, but you make more money. A return was coming anyways. I'd love to hear more about so you're hearing about like.
We hear about it quite a bit. I mean, Bull Metric and all those tools are great, and definitely things that like can help move the needle. And anything you can do to get the right items into the cart on that first order is great. And we talk a lot about like how do you drive the optimal cart composition. And so what we'll look at is plot orders on a graph to understand like profitability per order, and then what's the composition of those orders. And they vary by brand. So whether it's a cosmetics brand that we work with, we're looking at like different shades in color cosmetics, or broader selection of the catalog and skincare, or in apparel. You're typically looking at multiple sizes across multiple styles, and driving trial across styles is really key. But yeah, we've definitely heard brands like assembling return rate task force, which are cross-functional teams focused on reducing return rates. And I definitely have a lot of thoughts on return rate task force because they can be really effective and impactful. But I think the way many are assembled are actually solving the wrong problem, because oftentimes it's focused on reducing return rates. Now, not all, but oftentimes it's focused on reducing return rates. What we kind of think about is there are some returns that we want to reduce. These are returns where like there's a product issue or the product didn't meet the needs of the customer. That's more of like a kind of product market fit problem. And so really understand being in touch with shoppers, surveying shoppers, understanding why it didn't work out at a much more granular level. That I think survey data can take you pretty far, but it can only go so far. Like pick up the phone, send a text message to your shoppers, like one-on-one personal, like really understand what's wrong in the product. And then like solving the return rate problem would also be renegotiating with your 3PL or renegotiating with your carriers to get better pricing. So you have, leaner cost structure. But there becomes a floor in all of that. And, you could spend a lot of time chipping away, but there's very small incremental changes. I think the piece that is overlooked is how do you fundamentally change the gross AOV on that order? So we're then like improving things from all ends. We're reducing the return rates of products that don't meet the needs of customers by, improving the product or sizing or whatever it is. We're improving our cost structure, but then like how do we expand the more amount of revenue we bring in per order? And that's where like we could drive some step function change. But if your focus is on reducing return rates, then like we definitely wouldn't be a good fit. So that's why I think like one of our investors and board members always said, if you can't solve the problem, change the problem. And I think that's like very kind of astute in this instance, which like you can't solve the return rate problem. Shoppers are just returning. And it's kind of the new normal that we need to sort of pivot and adjust around and say like in this new normal, like how do we build a really healthy, profitable business and flow with this consumer shift as opposed to, against it.
Hey, what are the other, because, my mind immediately goes to fashion. What are those other verticals that you're seeing a drastic uptick? I'm just thinking if I'm a brand and I'm listening in and I'm thinking, hey, I'm in a different category than apparel, it's probably not going to work for me. What are the other major like verticals that are working that you see people using? And then are there ones that you're like, hey, nobody's using it here yet, but I could see it be applicable over there as well?
Yeah. Yeah. So anywhere in which like I think a good analog would be anything that is like best experienced in a store where it's like you really got to see if this product works for you. So take Sephora and Ulta, like those businesses just live around trials and driving trial. You come into a store, like sales associate is like getting you to try products as soon as you can. And so cosmetics, skincare, beauty is our fastest growing segment. The AS Beauty portfolio has been a real leader and an early adopter of Try Before You Buy. So it's Laura Geller, Cover FX, and a handful of other brands that we're working with and empowering their programs. So that's been exciting to see. A few different models in beauty. Depending on the COGS of that brand, you can send the full size product, which Il Maquillage does, and Cover FX does, and Laura Geller as well. Or you can send a sample with the full size product. And so in this model, Sniff is one of our customers. They're a fragrance company. They send a tester along with the full size product. So if a shopper tries the tester, they like it, they just keep the full size product. But if they don't, they send it back, and that allows Sniff to then resell those returns. So there's no waste on the return side.
Yeah. Awesome. So beauty, fragrance, obviously fashion. Do you see this up to, are there other ones that are like right on the horizon? Is the next one you want to crack?
Of course, like footwear, jewelry is a growing category for us. Home is a category that has not been a core focus of ours yet, but I do think has a lot of potential because the marketing message around try at home is just obviously so relevant. Now, I think anywhere where you don't accept returns is difficult / impossible. So I'd say like heavy furniture, really difficult. Mattresses where you typically can't resell, I think that's challenged. But other home products I think are fantastic. We work with a brand called Shocks, the Open Run Pro 2s, which was a new product launch of theirs. We drove massive growth for them, and it performed as well as their 50% off discount code, which they use very, very sparingly. And so like driving growth for electronics brands is definitely a focus of ours in 2025. And Shocks is leading the way there.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, I've been picking your brain for a while. Thank you. I don't know if there's any questions top of mind. I don't mind if you have any for me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, let's say you're running a brand, other than returns, like what one question that we got recently is, well, we were in a sales call and said, gosh, we share the data, and our contracts are order to order. They can leave at any time because we're confident they're going to see results. He's like, this sounds too good to be true. Like, why isn't everyone doing this? So, well, we just went GA and launched our new platform in April. So like we're working hard. It's all happening. But I'm curious from like your perspective. You talk to brands every day. Like, other than returns, like why isn't everyone doing this?
Few reasons. During the coming out of the pandemic, there was a tech stack bloat where there was a FOMO of, am I going to have the right tools on the site? I need to show growth. And then everybody was signing up for everything in hopes that something would hit, right? And this idea that everyone was going to lift sales by 2%, and I added 20, so I should be up 40%, but I'm only up like 15. Like something's broken. So there's this tech stack bloat that's taken place. There's a lot of those people who have gone out of business, and now there needs to be a rationalization. At the same time, I'm seeing digital teams shrinking. A lot of it driven by money that came in, private equity money that came in, as $1 trillion, 2, 3, 4 trillion, whatever, how many trillions the government printed, and banks didn't want money at the end of 2020. The capital was cheap to borrow, so it led to huge valuations and private equity like coming in and buying a bunch of stuff at higher valuations. And that was the end of 2020. Well, on that 5-year hold, they want their money back at the end of next year. So you think about EBITDA and the people, salaries are an EBITDA direct add back, slight discount. And so teams right now across the board are being shrunk. And so now people have more to do than ever before. They've been burned a ton. And there's a lot longer consideration period before they bring anything in. And to your point early on, is it's like it's almost counterintuitive, right? Okay, so I've got a higher price point product, which is probably more likely in a normal mindset to be kept or stolen or have fraud happen to it. And I'm going to put more stuff in a basket so they can try more stuff for free in hopes that they send it back. And that's why I love things like this, is walking through it with you in real time around like, hey, how is this working for brands? Because as you piece it together, it totally makes sense. Like, I'm not walking into a store. Somebody's not walking up to me and I'm looking at, 3 different pairs of pants and saying, I've got one shot to get it right. And then if they don't fit, I'm walking out. Like, that doesn't happen. I want to try it all on, but like how are you saying? Like, I don't want to pay for it all up front. I don't want that hold. Well, if you remove that, I'll put tons of stuff in the cart, and I'm returning something. That as a brand knows something's coming back, especially in apparel. All right, well, have them triple their basket size. They can send more back, but it's already a box coming back. So there's apprehension right now. There's a lot of, I would say, new AI ML tools that are hitting the market that people are looking at, but I think you'll see a big hit next year. I think there's going to be a massive focus on, I think this year has been identifying the profitability hits, and next year is going to be solving for it. It has to, because you're right. I mean, for a lot of brands, EBIT is where it's at. Whether you're private equity held or you're looking to sell, right? Or heck, you're just an owner and you want to make more money. These are the things you have to look at.
Yeah.
And so
no one goes broke making a profit.
Right. Exactly. So those are the things. It's a weird time. It's a really weird time. And when do I think we shake out of it? I don't know right now. This tools like you are changing the landscape, right? Like TryNow, they're changing the landscape and they're fundamentally shifting how people were thinking about e-commerce. And everybody wants it to get closer to the in-store experience. So here's, I guess, where I'm coming to us. I guess I'm rambling a little, is solutions, partners, new tech that can make the online experience closer to the in-store experience, like what you're doing, are going to be the game changer. And that is around really true personalization. I walked in, there's somebody that's coming up. Hey, by the way, this shirt, it goes with these pants. This sweater is sold, 8 times more than any other one when somebody buys this shirt. Those are the things that curated.
Yeah.
And then, hey, try as much as you want, and you only pay for what you actually walk out of the store with. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
So,
it's we always
you have to be excited, man. You have to be excited. It's a great product in a cool spot, solving a problem that a lot of people have.
Yeah, we're stoked over at TryNow. I mean, I think the piece that gets us fired up is not like, our order count chart and our revenue chart. It's like, that's all like an output of just like insane customer value. And that is what like drives all of us. We are like, the team lives and breathes the customer, more so than any other company I've ever seen. And we've got an amazing team that just like is constantly delivering for customers from a product-led perspective. We pretty much don't have a sales team or marketing team. We don't have any marketing team. We have one person on the sales side. Everything else that we spend money on, no one is quota carrying. So no one has a quota to like try to close a deal. It's like we're just funneling dollars into product and engineering and like helping our merchants be successful. And so I think from our perspective, like our team is like every single day, we're like identifying areas for improvement and constantly incorporating it. So it's fun to see kind of the fruits of that labor and the impact that we've had with merchants. So it's it's going to be a fun year ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm pumped for you, my friend, and thanks again for your time today, and thanks everybody for listening. With that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks, everybody.